Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining in. So, what I'm going to do is talk through my recent trip to Annapurna Base Camp. I'll give some background to it. I'll try and walk through the experience with a few pictures. And at the end of this, like I mentioned earlier, this will be around 30 minutes or so, I think. At the end of it, I have a few bullet points, and we can talk through. If anyone of you is interested in doing it, I can get into some specifics and give you some kind of tips, I guess, on what you cannot do. Okay, with that, let me get started. I want to start with giving you a little bit of Nepal itself. Nepal is such a place that you can spend a lifetime climbing mountains there. I know this is a bit crowded, this slide, but if you see all these kind of rectangles and squares are different trekking regions in Nepal. Let me just use my pointer. Give me a moment. Yeah, if you see this, this is the most popular, which has Lukla within it. This square has Everest, Lhotse, and Choyo. This is most popular because this is where Everest Base Camp is. That is region number 9, and most people would typically aspire to go there. So this is a very popular region. Otherwise, if you see every region, and one of the reasons Nepal is so popular is pretty much every peak listed over here in this chart is more than 8,000 meters. And Annapurna is out here. So if you see Kathmandu, which is the capital, Annapurna is to the west of Kathmandu, Lukla and Everest are to the east of Kathmandu. So I'm not going to talk about Lukla and EBC today, at least. I could talk about it some other time if anybody is interested. But these two are most popular. Annapurna is popular because it's relatively easier as compared to the Everest region. And the third one, which is very popular, is Manaslu. Here too, there are several treks. And the thing is, there are some treks which have been defined, but otherwise the good thing is that you can kind of make your own trek. In other words, if you say, I want to be in that region and I want to spend 3 days, you can figure out where to go. All you need is a guide to take you around. And Dhaulagiri is also reasonably popular, but not as popular as the other two. So where I was is Annapurna. And specifically, if you look at Annapurna, hopefully you can see this map over here. This is the map of the trekking area itself. There are two ways. ABC is out here. This is the base camp, Annapurna base camp at 4,130 meters. There are two ways to get here. One is, of course, the quicker way. Pokhara, by the way, is the nearest town. So you fly to Pokhara or you take a bus to Pokhara from Kathmandu. And then you can take a jeep along this route and then go to Birethanti, where my pointer is, and then do a trek which goes around this way, which is a longer one, which is what I did, by the way. Or you can do a shorter one because you can take a jeep up to this place called Sivai, and then from there you can start. That is a shorter one. The longer one takes around 10 days, and the shorter one takes around 5 days. Of course, it depends on you as well. But many people do the shorter one. The road from, this is Naya Pool, which is really a new bridge which they've built over here. From here, all the way here is rough mud kind of roads, hilly roads. So you need a 4x4 to get there. But it's available. At least the roads are there to take you there. So what I did, of course, was get to Pokhara, and then I took a jeep to Birethanti and then went around this route, which is what I'm going to talk about. So the starting point, of course, is Kathmandu. That's where, regardless of where you go in Nepal, that's where you start. And I wanted to call out this area called Thamel. Thamel is, in fact, it looks a little bit like Chickpet for those of you familiar with Bangalore. Very kind of narrow streets, and this is how it looks, by the way. It's less crowded compared to Chickpet, but during the evening time, it does get crowded. And it's twice I've been to this area, and both times they were very nicely decorated and lit. This time it was because of Dashera. Last year it was because of Diwali. And this is a picture I've taken from last year, which is Diwali. They have very interesting Diwali celebrations over there where children go around singing and kind of collecting money. It's a Nepalese version of Halloween, actually. That's what they do, but it's fun to watch this. And Thamel is a touristy area, which means this is where pretty much all tourists stay. So there are decent hotels here in this area as well. So that's Kathmandu for you. So you start at Kathmandu and then get to Pokhara. When going to Pokhara, I took a bus and I pretty much immediately regretted this because Pokhara is just 200 kilometers from Kathmandu, but the bus journey takes 10 hours. So you're going at like 20 kilometers in an hour as an average. That's primarily because the roads are really, really bad. When coming back from Pokhara, I flew back. And one thing to keep in mind, by the way, is Pokhara to Kathmandu or Kathmandu to Pokhara or anywhere within Kathmandu, the airfare is for Indian citizens is the same as that for Nepali citizens. That's some kind of a treaty. Now, many tourist agents out there, the travel agents won't tell you that, but just keep that in mind. And you need to travel. Price for Indian passport holders is nearly half or 1/3 of what they charge foreign passports. So I took a bus, not a fun ride. I took to Pokhara. So the total trek was 10 days, but I spent 2 days getting to Pokhara and 2 days getting back from Pokhara back to Bangalore. So in all, 14 days. Now, let me start with day one. So day one was really Pokhara to this place called Ulleri, which I'm showing with my pointer. If you see the altitudes, Pokhara is 820 meters. Berethanti is 1400 meters. So a jeep takes you, a 4x4 takes you to Berethanti, and then from there you start your trek and reach Ulleri. It takes around 3 to 4 hours. And just to give you some sense of what it looks like, it's beautiful countryside. I mean, you have a lot of step farms around, and it's a nice walk. It's steep at sometimes, but you know, walking in the hills is always up and down. You climb up, go down, climb up again. But the vertical climb was not that much. And on the way, you see some beautiful falls. This is a kind of a hanging bridge across this stream and a waterfall over there. Very pretty, very picturesque as you walk through this. The climb itself in most parts is steps like this. This is, like you find in Chamundi Betta kind of steps, which is not what you find elsewhere, by the way. At least this part of the trek is steps of this kind. In many cases, you'll have the steps going up for several hundreds of meters. So you'll climb like 2,000 steps at one time, something like that. So that's how this part looks. Yeah. Uncle, you may want to mute. You may want to mute your microphone. Okay. Day 2 is Ulleri to this place called Gorepani. This, in my opinion, was the toughest part of the entire trek. Reason being, it's quite steep. Ulleri is 1960 meters and Gorepani is 2880. By the way, that said, I should point out one thing to you that in all, this Annapurna trek is among the easiest of treks you can do in Nepal. And because of that, it gets quite crowded. And when I went, which was in between Dashera and Deepavali, entire Nepal is on holiday, which meant a lot of local tourists come here, and many of them are first-timers because they find this easier to do. So timing-wise, it's great in terms of weather, but otherwise it's pretty crowded. And I'll tell you the implication of being crowded. But anyway, a little later. Ulleri to Gorepani is one of the tougher ones, steep. But the good thing is you immediately start seeing I should point out one more thing. So the beauty of Annapurna, by the way, is the tall peaks all around you. They're very, very close to you. So Annapurna South is out here. This is the first one you will see because when you're climbing from Ulleri to Gorepani, you can see it in the northeasterly direction. You have Annapurna South. You pretty much see all of these as you go up, and all of them are very tall, snow-clad mountains, and they are beautiful, and they're kind of next door to you. That's the beauty of it as compared to the Everest region, where most of the peaks, the taller peaks, are slightly away from you. The first one which you see, of course, is Annapurna South, and you can see how close it is to you. And of course, you see more waterfalls. And this is Gorepani, and I put this picture just to show you how these villages look. I know this gate is kind of covering the village, but these are the tiny villages which have Gorepani is slightly bigger. It has probably 150 houses. Many of the houses, in fact, are tea houses, which is where one stays. So that's another point, which is the good thing about treks in Nepal is that you don't have to carry tents around for most of the treks. You don't carry tents around. You have tea houses pretty much everywhere. They're basic, but they're good enough for you to stay. So that kind of reduces the baggage which you carry as well. So this is Gorepani to you. And the reason you go to Gorepani is that you start seeing some absolutely phenomenal mountains from here. This is Dhaulagiri. I have to go back a little bit to show you where Dhaulagiri is. So this is the Annapurna range. Annapurna range runs northwest to southwest in this direction, as you can see my pointer. And you have Dhaulagiri range, which runs this way between what's this, southwest and northeast. So this is Dhaulagiri. It's not in this picture, but you can kind of make out. And the reason one goes to Gorepani, and then I'll tell you, I went to Poon Hill as well. The reason you go to Poon Hill is this is the only place where you can see both these ranges at the same time. You have the Annapurna range and you have the Dhaulagiri range. Dhaulagiri range is the one which comes into India as well, into, I think, Himachal. So that's the same range. And you have Dhaulagiri is what you see out here. That's the first view of Dhaulagiri which you get. Next day, day 3, was a climb to Poon Hill. You can see the altitudes over here. Gorepani is 2880 meters. Poon Hill is 3210 meters. And Tadapani is the where you end up at the end of the day. So you from Gorepani early in the morning, around 4 a.m. I think we left at 4:30, I think, but they recommend that you leave by 4. Leave at 4. This takes around an hour and a half to climb this to get to Poon Hill, which is at 3,200 meters. And from Poon Hill, you wait for the sunrise and see both the Dhaulagiri and the Annapurna ranges. And then you come back to Gorepani, have breakfast, and then trek down to Tadapani. If you see Tadapani, it's at a lower altitude, 2630 meters. And that's what we did on day 3. So you see here, you set off early in the morning, which means you need, it's pretty cold, by the way. It's close to 0 degrees or maybe a little negative as well. So you need down jackets and whatnot. When you do this, you need to carry a torch because it's dark. And then you find your way up these steps. And then once you reach the top, unfortunately for us, that day was a cloudy day. So we didn't get great views, but you can see both. In fact, the Dhaulagiri range was fully covered, unfortunately. We could see the Annapurna range with some clouds. You can see this. This is Annapurna 1 and Annapurna 2. You can see this. And then, of course, when I was coming down from Poon Hill, I got a shot of Dhaulagiri because the clouds had just cleared. But by the time I had left Poon Hill.
Yes, your turn.
And of course, this is, I think, yeah, it's still Annapurna 2. It stayed cloudy till, I think, 8:30 or so. Only after that, the sun came out. So we didn't get great views, but still it was good enough. Now, the walk from Gorepani to Tadapani is kind of downhill, and you walk through a really nice forest. You see some monkeys and a little bit of wildlife over here, but it's just beautiful to walk through these trees. It's very kind of dense growth out here. So that's really nice walk. So you now reach Tadapani, and day 4, you go from Tadapani to this place called Chomrong. You see Chomrong is out here. Altitude-wise, you see Tadapani is 2630, Chomrong is 2165, which means you come down in altitude. And this is the place where the shorter route also meets. So this is the place, Chomrong is the place where you start finding the place really crowded. And the way in which this works, by the way, especially for those of you who are planning to go there, there's no concept of advance booking. These tea houses, normally your guide knows these tea houses. He'll call these tea houses either the previous evening or the next morning and give a time when you're likely to reach. If you don't show up by the time, the room is given to somebody else. And especially at these times when it's so crowded, if you land up a little late due to whatever reason, you won't get your room and you'll end up sleeping in the dining room. But they don't turn people away, by the way. That's one thing about Nepal. The people are fantastic. They're so nice. They will not turn you away. They will give you either their place where they sleep, or they'll give you the dining room where after people clear out, you put mattresses on the dining table and sleep on it. That nearly happened to me once. I'll tell you a little bit later on. But that you just remember that. Try to make it on time based on the time the guide tells the tea house. So this is a climb down, and this is what you see. This is Machapuchre. It's called Fishtail. It's considered a sacred mountain out there, which means nobody climbs it. It's a little bit like Kailash. And the interesting thing about Machapuchre, or the Fishtail as they call it, is looks different from different directions. This one is visible from Pokhara. I didn't put up that picture. Looks very different from Pokhara, but as you get around Machapuchre, you see Machapuchre is out here. So just to give you some sense of where it is, it will look very different. For instance, we are in Chomrong. This is the view you get from Chomrong. You'll find a very different view when you're from NBC or from ABC, because you're at the other side of the fishtail. So that's an interesting one to keep in mind. The other thing is, while walking from Tadepani to Chomrong, we saw this landslide. This landslide apparently started after this year's monsoon in August or so, and is still continuing to happen. Right now, all that's falling is just dust and mud. They've not been able to arrest it. So in fact, there used to be a trekking path through the lower altitude over here. Now you have to walk on top of it. But you can see the mud continuing to fall at a very slow pace, but it's continuing to fall. Day 5. Chomrong to Devon. Now, what you need to Ashok, you may want to mute your microphone. Yeah. So, Chomrong to Devon. Now, thing to keep in mind, by the way, is there are a lot of villages on the way. You have Sinua, Bamboo, Duvan, Himalaya, Devrali. All these are different villages on the way, and you can decide on where you really want to stay. We decided to stay in Devon because that kind of made sense to us. Some people go all the way up to Devrali and stay there as well. We stayed there, but the only thing to keep in mind is Devrali, Himalaya, and Devon. You get the views are not great because there are kind of mountains out here around which block views to all the other taller mountains. So the views are not that great. So we decided to stay at Devon, and you can see the altitude. You have now started climbing again. So from 2165 meters, you have now come to 2600 meters. And this is on the way. Once again, I'm giving you some idea of this is you see this village, Sinua. So I've taken this picture from somewhere out here, Sinua, looking back at Sinua. So that's where Sinua is. Chomrong is behind it. So we have come up past Sinua. This is just to give you an idea of how these villages look as you climb. And of course, now you see Machapuchre, it's starting to look a little different as you climb compared to what you saw in Chomrong. And this is to give you an idea of what the tea houses look like. As you can see, they are fairly basic. This is where I stayed. In fact, my room was somewhere there. So the way in which it is that all these, by the way, since we landed a little early in Devon, these guys were still drying their blankets outside. These are all blankets which will then go back onto the mattresses inside. So these rooms are all multi-shared rooms or multiple shared rooms, which means if you're traveling alone like I was, you need to be ready to share the room with somebody else. Many of these rooms have 3, 4, sometimes 5 beds. The good thing about it is that you'll meet people from across the world. I met a whole bunch of Nepali students. I met people from, I think, these 2 kids that come from UK. So lots of people you'll meet and you'll get to chat. But the thing is that if you're looking for a single room for yourself, you're not going to get it. Because none of the rooms are single. All these rooms are 4 or 5 bed sharing, and there's very little space between the beds as well, by the way. During the daytime, this is where you eat. And at nighttime, there's a little kitchen kind of a place or a dining place opposite. This is a walking path on the opposite side, where you go and eat. So this is just to give you an idea of what these places look like. Now, I did carry a sleeping bag, but I didn't use it at all because these mattresses were good enough. I just used a a cover, sleeping bag cover, which I used on myself, and then these blankets. And these blankets are really good enough because the temperatures drop rapidly out there once the sun goes down. Most of these places, the temperature was between 3 and 5 degrees centigrade. And higher up at MBC and ABC, the temperature fell even below. ABC, of course, it goes down to -10. MBC, it was more like -5. So now the next day, this is day 6. Day 7 was we reached ABC. Day 6 is Dovan to Machapuchre base camp. It's also called MBC. You see this, although it looks altitude-wise 2,600 to 3,700 meters, this is relatively easy trek because it's a long distance. This distance is nearly 10 kilometers, so which means it's gradual climb, and so it's easier than one thinks. And the reason why we decided to stay at MBC is that MBC you get some absolutely phenomenal views, and it's a base camp. There are only 4 tea houses over here, so if you get a place here, I would always recommend stay here because it's a really nice place to stay. So MBC is 3,700, and this is on the way. Again, beautiful waterfalls. This, in fact, I didn't take a panoramic photo. This waterfall spreads right across. It's a little bit like a smaller version of Joke Falls. So you have many falls, across from left to right. And then, of course, this valley through which you're walking is beautiful. You're walking along the stream, which is flowing down all the way from ABC, actually, from a glacier out there, and you're walking along this this valley. And as you walk, you can see the vegetation change as well. We are very close to MBC now, and you can see how the vegetation has changed. Trees have given way to shrubs, and shrubs have actually turned brown as well. And this just tells you once you cross 3,300 meters, you hardly get any vegetation. And you of course you're getting into places now. This was probably around 2 in the afternoon, I think. This is mountain country, which means after 12:1 it gets cloudy. Often it rains. Of course, this is MBC, just a board, just a kind of a photo moment. And the camp is out there. You can see this is just a board. The camp is out there, maybe around a kilometer from this point. And that's where we stayed. This is a tea house, and you can see right behind it is Annapurna 3. Annapurna 3 again is beautiful. And the reason why it is beautiful is this is what you see in the evening. Sunset on Annapurna 3, very short window of, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes. When the sun sets, the sun falls on it, creating this phenomenal golden color. Got to see it. I was just lucky. Nobody told me that the sunset will be so beautiful. I just happened to be outside, and the sun was setting, and just got this gorgeous view of Annapurna 3. So I made sure the next morning when I got up, I will see the sunrise as well. So the next day, day 7, was our trek to ABC. Now here again, I made a decision not to stay at ABC. Many people stay back at ABC. The reason I did stay is that it was incredibly crowded. There were lots of people going up to ABC, and many of them were not planning to come back, which meant that there will be a big struggle for space. So I decided to go in the morning to ABC, spend time, and come back to MBC and spend the night, day 7 night at MBC. I made the call. Now, again, for those of you planning to go to these parts, if you go in a group, there are lots of travel companies which organize group tours. You may not have this flexibility because in group tours, they have a kind of a fixed program and agenda. In my case, since I was doing solo, it was easy. I could decide where to stay, where not to stay, and so on. But if you're going in a group, you may not have that luxury. So the next day was MBC. MBC, as you can see, is at 3,700. ABC is at 4,100. This is the tallest or the highest point of the trek, 4,100 meters, which relatively is not that much. If you go across to the other side, the Lukla and Everest area, most of the points are above 5,000 meters. So that's why it's relatively easier trek, because you don't, some people do feel the lack of oxygen once they cross the 3,000 meters. But as I said, relatively oxygen plays a lesser role in your climb. So the next day was to ABC, and this is sunrise of Annapurna 3 again, morning before I left for ABC. And this is, of course, ABC. Now, the where Annapurna base camp is, it's in a kind of a basin. It's a very small kind of basin, which is there. And these are the staying areas at Annapurna base camp. This is just, I think, 2 or 3 tea houses. That's it. So you can imagine the crowds which come here and find a place to stay. And the beauty of it is it's completely surrounded by tall mountains. And all of them look so near. You can you feel like touching them. It's that close. That's the beauty of ABC, which you don't get anywhere else. Even EBC, you don't get that. And I wanted to show this video. Just hopefully you can hear it. I think I turned on the sound. This is my guide pointing out all the different peaks from ABC.
Hello, namaste everyone. We are from here, Annapurna base camp. You can see Annapurna range, and then Annapurna south there, and then Annapurna Phang between the south and Annapurna first between the Annapurna Phang, and then Annapurna first, and then Annapurna range also Singasuli. This one is small, this one, and then there is a Annapurna range, and then this one Annapurna third, and then Gandharvachuli, and then Fishtail. Thank you very much.
That is Fishtail.
Fishtail, yeah.
Did you folks hear it? Did you hear my guide's voice? Anyone?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing.
Okay,
Yes,
great.
we did.
Great. Thanks.
But
I wasn't too sure if I turned on the setting in Zoom.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, let me continue. So this is Annapurna base camp. As I said, the beauty of it is all the peaks which surround the base camp. And you can see these are all, I think, some of those Nepali students I talked about. Lots of them out there. Yeah, so now the descent. In fact, this is the toughest part, by the way. Coming down is always a pain. And we decided to do a very long climb down. So this was a 15-kilometer climb down from MBC all the way to this place called Sinua. And that too, we took lower Sinua, which means lower in that village. So from 3,700 meters, we came to 2,100 meters. It took me 8 hours to come down. And I was so tired at the end of it. And that's the night where the major earthquake happened in Nepal. Everybody else in the tea house felt it. I did not feel it because I was that fast asleep. But that's a long one, and I would again recommend that to come down as much as possible. The reason is that you have good stuff to do after that. So that was a climb down. There's nothing much on the way down except some beautiful views when you look behind. So we came down that narrow valley, and once again we start descending early, so you see the sun coming out on some beautiful peaks again behind you. So that's again Annapurna 2, I think, on the way down. Finally, day 9 is this lower Sinua to this place called Jinu Danda. Danda in Nepalese means place. So Jinu is the name of the place. Jinu Danda, the interesting thing about Jinu Danda is that it has hot water springs out there. And in fact, that's the best thing that you can do after you come down. I'll show you in a moment. You see the altitudes, 2,100 meters to 1,780 meters. This one is short. It took me just, I think, 2.5, 3 hours to come down from Sinua to Jinu Danda. On the way, of course, you can see throughout Nepal, you'll see a mix of Hindu and Buddhist you can see the two monuments of both pretty much across Nepal. So you see many of these as you come down. I'll play this video again. The way in which they have built this is you got these tanks which have been created. This is my porter, by the way. You have these tanks which are built, and you have the hot water from the hot springs coming into these tanks. And just next to it is cold, fast-flowing river. So you'll see it now. So that's the river you see. these are the tanks. And you can see me enjoying over there. And this is where the hot spring water is coming on you. And the beauty is that this is fantastic after a long trek. It gives you one hell of a massage. I spent an hour in this this pool. Fantastic massage, especially that water falling on your back and head and legs and whatnot. So I would strongly recommend it. For those of you planning to go there, even if you take the shorter way up, when you come down, make sure you come to Jinidanda and spend a night over there. And finally, day 10 is coming back. So what you do is you walk to this place called Sivai. That's where you get, you can rent or hire 4x4 jeeps. We walk till there. This is just an hour-long walk. You come here and then take one of those jeeps on these mud roads, come down to Nayapul. Nayapul is where you meet a highway, which is a better road. And from there, you get to Pokhara. That was the last day of my trek. So I think I just wanted to show you that this was my team. This guy to my right is Tulsi. He was my guide. Could speak a little bit of Hindi, a little bit of English, but the communication was definitely an issue. But he was fantastic. He knew the place so well. And this is Vasu or Basu. This guy is from Pokhara again, and he was my porter. That was my team. That's it, folks. Now I can talk about these things. I mean, you can unmute yourselves. And for those of you who don't want to hear about this, you can leave now. Otherwise, others can stay on. If you have any questions, you can ask right now. I can go back and show some of the pictures. You still there?
Yeah.
Very interesting. Very
Okay.
interesting. Very interesting.
Thank you, Uncle. Thank you.
MD, this is Sam here. Instead of taking
Yes, Sam.
4x4, is there a way we can take a bike?
Yes, you can take that. I saw lots of these Nepali kids taking those. I don't know, they look like mountain bikes. I'm not an expert on bikes, but they did look like that on those roads.
Okay, maybe Himalayan. It looks like a sports bike, but it is its own 4x. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But lots of these student guys were doing that. They would come to this place, to this this bus park, Sivai. They park that and then do the trek and come back.
Oh, okay, cool.
Another way to do it is that they'll come to this Gangruk. You see this place here? They would park there and then trek up and come down again. So I saw a lot of them on bikes.
Oh, okay, cool.
When you say bike, you mean motorbike?
Sorry, what's that?
Motorbike?
Yes, motorbikes. I mean, they look like those what you see on TV, right? The guys flying off whatever those mud paths.
Lightweight off-roaders.
Got it.
Correct. They look like them, so I don't know the make and all that.
Hey, MD, you went
Yeah,
in the month of November, no?
October. I left on October 25th, came back on November 7th. So right in between Dashara and Deepavali.
Yeah, that's the beginning of the winter, no? Am I right?
There is no, I mean, look, it starts getting cooler. I told you the temperatures, right? So the thing about all these places, Naren, is that when the sun is out, it's fantastic. The temperature is in the low 20s. In fact, when you're walking, you have to take off your jacket and so on. When the sun is out, it's fantastic. But the moment sun sets, temperature drops from 22, 23, it will drop right down to 5 degrees.
No, my question is, how is it to visit this place in the months of April and May?
It's as good. In fact, there are two. In fact, that's one of the things I want to talk. Oh, it's not listed here, but I can talk about it. Normally, people go to these places between April and May before the monsoons come, or between September and December before the winter sets. These are the two periods of time. The difference, April is as good, April, May is as good. You will get a lot more snow because the snow wouldn't have melted. That's one advantage. The disadvantage is that air is not that clear. So the kind of pictures which you see, there's a bit of a mist in the air when you go in April and May as compared to October, November, when the air is a lot cleaner. But the disadvantage is that the monsoon has, washed away quite a bit of that snow. So you won't find that much snow, especially when you're on your trekking paths.
Okay. Thank you, MD.
Yeah. Any other
MD,
question?
a
I can
couple of-
quickly go through these points. Yeah, Raja.
Two things, Ma. One is talk a little about the food. I know you're a veggie, but if you can go beyond the veggie part of the store, I mean, what are people eating and, what's your nourishment as you're doing this? And the second thing is, who's making the food and what's your interaction with people who do that sort of stuff?
Yeah, excellent. I'm actually, food was the fourth item on my list over here. So let me talk about food. Now, yes, I'm vegetarian. By the way, most people who trek in those regions, even foreigners who trek, stay vegetarian. The reason is that nobody is interested in getting their tummies upset, and I do the same as well. In fact, I follow an even kind of a stricter discipline. The 10 days of my trek, I'm not talking about the first 2 days and the last 2 days. The 10 days of my trek, I eat the same thing for breakfast, same thing for lunch, and the same thing for dinner, which is my breakfast is porridge, oat porridge with fruits. And fruit typically over there is either banana or apple, along with 2 boiled eggs and coffee. So that would typically be my breakfast. Lunch, I would take what Nepalis call dal bath. Dal bath is really dal chawal. So they'll give you, I should have put pictures of that. They'll give you a kind of like you get in the meals, right? You get one circular thingy of rice. You'll get a big bowl of dal, and the dal will be a lot of dals mixed in it. So that's nice, but it'll be pretty watery, and you'll get some vegetable. The vegetable will typically be cauliflower and potato and a little beans, and you'll get some kire-like stuff, like some palak-like. I don't know exactly which palak that was. So you'll get that in some places, lower altitude, you get that. Sorry. Yeah. So you get that. That would be my lunch, and dinner. Invariably, I would take rice to kind of stock up for the next day. Now, I think most of you know that I'm diabetic, but this is the place where I ate rice. I ate as much carbs as possible because you burn out. In fact, after 10 days, at least 7 of the days, I would have burnt in excess of 1,700 or 1,800 or maybe 2,000 calories per day. And typically, that's what I lose, or that's the amount of calories I burn when I do a half marathon. So essentially, I did 7 half marathons in the 10 days. So carbs is so important, and the protein for you is coming from the eggs in the morning and the dal, of course. And drink. I would, of course, coffee was the only thing which I took in the morning. Other than that, it was always honey, ginger, lemon tea. It's fantastic, actually. They give it to you nice and hot. It's as the name suggests, there's honey in it, ginger in it. Of course, dip tea bag and water, hot water. That you get all along. So that's what I had. And I would recommend that to most people because that kind of keeps your tummy okay. You don't want to get to any of these places and have a kind of a bad incident with your tummy. And by the way, one more thing is water. Okay. Bottled water is available, only bottled water. You pay for it. Bottled water is cheaper in lower altitudes, but gets pretty expensive as you climb up. It starts with 50 Nepali rupees and goes all the way up to 300 or 400 Nepali rupees. And even further higher, like MBC and ABC, you don't even get bottled water. They will boil water and fill your flask or bottle or whatever you're carrying. Just boiled water they'll give you. And even for that, they charge. So one of the things you need to keep in mind, and I should have mentioned it, currency, you need to carry cash. Indian currency, only 100 rupee notes works, and that works in Kathmandu and Pokhara. There's no electronic money over there. Indian credit cards are not accepted in Nepal, by the way. I think most of you would have seen that mentioned at the back of your credit cards. So you won't be able to use your credit card. So what I did was I took, in fact, I had some dollar bills with me. I took that and exchanged it to Nepali rupees. I got 13,000 rupees for every $100, I think. And That's what I took all along, because what you pay for is you pay for your guide, you pay for your porter, you pay for your stay, you pay for food, all that stuff which I mentioned, and park fee I didn't have to pay. Of course, I paid my guide for it, but there's a fee which you need to pay for that as well. So you need to carry cash, Nepali cash. That's very useful.
Total, how much?
How much was it? I think during the trip I would have spent 30,000 Indian rupees, plus or minus.
Rama, if I
So,
could bring you back to
one Indian rupee is 1.5 Nepali rupee, by the way, when they exchange it. But if you exchange it at a government bank or something, you'll get 1.6.
MD, if I can get you back to, do you had any idea who cooked your food and you had any interactions
Oh,
with them?
yes. Oh, yes. So I told you I stayed in tea houses. So the tea houses are run by mom and pops. A family runs it, and the family cooks. They cook. They have a menu and all that. So it's quite. Remember, this has been built for overseas tourists. So they are neat. They are very professional. They give you a menu from which you pick, and they'll make it for you. You need to give them a specific time. For example, I would reach, let's say, Durban, I reached at 2 in the afternoon, I think. And then right as soon as you enter, you will order what you need for dinner and a time. You'll say 7 p.m. I'm going to have my dinner, or 6 p.m. I'm going to have my dinner, and I'm going to have this, this, and this. And they will be ready with it at that time. But that family cooks for you. And not just you, for everybody out there. Yeah, Raja? Does it answer your question?
Sounds great. Yeah. Sounds good, Ma. Thanks, Ma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really good information.
Talking about the seasonality, while April, May could be the easiest season, as I could put it, I think the views may not be very good at that time.
That is right. It's a misty kind of the mornings are misty, so you won't get a clear picture of the peaks. That's the disadvantage in April, May.
Okay. And September, December will be cold, so you have to bear the cold.
It's not that cold. Look, I went. I mean, it wasn't that bad. You need to, which comes to the point of clothing, right? That's my second bullet point over here. So when you go on treks, you take layers. So for instance, firstly, you never carry cotton, by the way. That's especially those of you going for the first time, don't carry cotton. Carry only dry fit polyester kind of clothing. The reason is that it dries quickly, and even if you get wet in a rain or whatever, it'll again dry quickly. It absorbs sweat, and sweat evaporates quickly, whereas cotton clothes get very heavy with it. That's why you don't carry cotton. And they're also thinner. Because they're thinner, you can wear many layers. So the air trapped in between, as you know, is a good insulator. So that's you keep warm with it. You always carry a fleece jacket. So fleece jacket would be something like this. What I'm wearing is a jacket of this kind, and these guys are also wearing similar stuff. So underneath this, by the way, I have one layer of a trek shirt, which is a thin shirt underneath. But I'm sitting in the sun, so it's quite warm. And you see my pants. These are also trek pants. These are non-cotton, I think, polyester kind of pants, which is very, very comfortable, by the way. And by the way, for those of you finicky about bath, you normally don't take bath during these treks. I did twice, on day 5, on day 1, day 5, and day 10. And of course, on day 9, I was at that pool, the hot water spring. So that was a pleasant surprise for me. Otherwise, you kind of, like I carried just 2 change pants. That is what I was wearing, plus 2 pants. That's more than enough. I took around 5 shirts. I took it because I needed layers. And then, of course, you take a down jacket as well. Down jacket is, where is it? Let me show you. I suppose you know what a down jacket means. What I'm wearing here, this orange thing. This is made of those down duck feathers, so it keeps you really warm. This jacket will help me go down to -5, -10 degrees. Yeah, I think Mayank had a question.
Yeah, I'm just saying that very useful information and very interesting, especially this down jacket you mentioned just now. My thought was, let's say you said that you have done it this second time. So definitely you would have planned for some preparation. Like you said that you came down 10 hours downhill. So for any novice, it is not so easy to come out 10 hours downhill immediately. I mean, continuously. I have done some trekking, Vaishno Devi and all. So I understand that kind of difficult. So what kind of preparation you went through for and planning you went through during this period?
Yeah,
like
that's my last bullet point over here.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike. So three things you need. Look, this one is not relatively lower altitude. So where other places like for instance, Everest Base Camp or Gokyori, those are 5,000 plus meters. So oxygen or lack of it has an impact on you. So the way in which you address that is going slow, which means stopping more at more points and gradually climbing. And every day you make sure you go to a higher altitude and come down and sleep at a lower altitude. So you have some techniques for dealing with altitude. You can't quite train for altitude. Just to give you an idea, Kilimanjaro, many of you know, Kilimanjaro is at close to 6,000 meters. A person like Martina Navratilova, the tennis player, she could not make it. She gave up at 4,500 meters because she had altitude issues. So in a way, it's nothing to do with what kind of a sports person you are. It just impacts. If it impacts you, it impacts you. All you can do is to make sure you gradually acclimatize. So that is one part when it comes to preparing for high altitude. Other things is you need strength in your legs. For that, by the way, the best thing is to do gym or what I did at Natasha. I mean, every day, at least 3 days in a week, I would do basement to terrace, which is equivalent of 9 floors. So you do that 5-6 times a day, continuously. And that kind of builds your leg strength, which is for climbing, especially when you're climbing stairs. You want to make sure your legs are strong, especially your quadriceps and calves. You need that strong. So that comes through training. The other thing you need is stamina or endurance. And that comes because you're doing this over 10 days. Shorter 3-day treks are okay, but when you're doing over 10 days, you're walking 10 days. And for that, you need to do some long distance, either run or walk. I run, so I can only talk about that, but there may be other ways of building endurance. But you need to, for instance, for me, I could easily do a 10K every week run, and that built endurance for me. So you need 3 things: endurance you need, strength you need, and the third thing is preparing for altitude.
When you said 10 kilometers in one stretch, once a week.
Yeah, I do once a week, but there are others who do more than that, by the way. I have friends who do even more than that, 10K, but I do just Sundays. I go to Kavan Park and I ride 10K, with the non-stop, of course.
Yeah, jog.
Yeah, correct. And you try to time yourself, and you'll see yourself building endurance, actually. And there are techniques for that. There are techniques for building that. You do shorter runs during the week. You do, there are ways in which you build stamina for runs as well. So you can, that's how you prepare for endurance, strength, and then you're all set.
Thank you. Great, sir. Thank you.
Tea houses, I think I gave you some idea of what they are like. The main thing to keep in mind is that don't expect luxury and don't expect single rooms and air conditioning and all that, or TV for that matter. By the way, most of these places, the interesting thing is, in fact, all the places, other places have mobile towers or signal, but all of them have internet. Even ABC, all of them have Wi-Fi in the tea houses. You know how? They have a dish on top and they get satellite internet, equivalent of Starlink. That's how they do it. So all along you have connectivity, so you can be in touch with your family. You can get onto Facebook and whatever else and send out pictures. So that's one advantage right across Nepal. I talked about food, shoes. Shoes, you need rugged shoes. And by the way, shoes, clothing, all this you get at Decathlon. By the way, they have great stuff. All this you get right here in Bangalore. So shoes you need, and I would suggest something which is waterproof, because you do tend to walk through water at times. For instance, some of the waterfalls which you saw, the water will run across your path. So you will need to get into water at times. So you need waterproof shoes, and you need shoes which cover right up to the ankle. Because when you're climbing some of these rocks, they tend to be a little dicey, and you don't want to, sprain or worse, break your ankle on this. I talked about clothing. I talked about tea houses. I talked about guide and porter.
No leeches in the water?
Not at this time of the year. Not at this time of the year. This is cold now. What you find leeches in the monsoon time. At lower
April,
altitude,
May.
higher altitude, you don't get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't
Vidyut,
walk on snows, no? Snows, you're not walking on snow, walking on
not
normal.
at this time. Not at this time of the year, Vidyut. But if you went in April, May, you would.
You will, in April, May, you'll have to walk on snows.
Yeah, at higher altitudes. For instance, near MBC and ABC, you will definitely walk over snow.
That's important.
At this time, as I said, that's the disadvantage of this time. You get clear views, but a lot of snow is washed away. So you don't get the opportunity to kind of be close to snow. The last point which I wanted to talk about is guide and porter. Now, I went solo, and that's what I do. By the way, the reason is that I'm not tied to any particular agenda. So guide is necessary because a person knows the place, and a porter is necessary because he or she, by the way, there are lady porters as well, just FYI. The porter carries your bag. And coming to luggage, you need to carry soft bags. That means you either carry a duffel bag or you carry a backpack. You can't carry suitcases to these parts of the world. And the reason you carry these soft bags is that they can be carried either by porters or by mules. Nepal doesn't use too many mules. They use mules only to move ration around between villages. But most of the carrying of luggage is done by human beings. And in a way, that's good. And by the way, from this year, I think, from this July or June, Nepal government brought in a law, which said that you cannot travel alone. In other words, there are a lot of Europeans, by the way, who come there backpack, which means they just go around without a guide and without a porter. Now, Nepal government has mandated that every tourist needs to have at least a guide, if not a porter. And the reason for that, two reasons. One is apparently there have been incidents where some of these foreigners have got lost, and that's created problems. And the second reason, of course, is to increase employment. And I think that's really worth it. By the way, a lot of people over there look forward to this. This is their only kind of source of income. My guide, for instance, he comes from a kind of very modest background. Father is old and still a farmer. And this was his only earning, and only during the season. So this time he would earn, and April, May he would earn, and that's it. He had to live with it for the entire year. Same with porter as well. Yeah, so it depends on you. I gave 4,000 rupees, Nepali rupees a day, but most people give 3,000 a day. That's what I heard, because he was pretty happy that I was giving him 4,000 a day. And at the end of the trip, invariably you tip them, which is over and above whatever you've given them on a daily basis, and that kind of depends on how happy you are. I gave both of them 2 days of. That is 8,000 rupees to the guide for as a tip, and Porter took 2,000 a day, so I gave him 4,000 as a tip. But that varies, as I said. It kind of depends on you. Yeah. Anything else, guys?
So this entire planning you did on your own, or did this guide? You are in touch with the guide before you went from here?
No, I did. There's enough material available on the internet, and you can talk to people. There are forums. And one of the reasons I'm doing this is so that you don't have to spend all the time researching. And you get it. I knew the shorter route was there and the longer route was there. And I took the longer because I was going all the way and I wanted to spend some more time in the mountains. That's why I took the 10-day option as compared to the 5-day one.
And the charges are paid in advance or in piecemeal?
I paid in advance. Only the tip I paid at the end.
Oh, the entire amount in advance?
Yes, to the guide. I mean, 10 days basically. He was with me for 10 days, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I paid that in advance.
That's almost
and to the
mandatory.
porter as well. No, it doesn't have to be. It depends on what you deal with. I prefer giving it to them because you don't know where they need, what they need, how they need, when they need. These guys don't cheat you. I'll tell you, these guys their livelihood depends on this. And word of mouth is so important. In fact, I know that I would refer, my friends to the same guide or porter. So they know that word of mouth matters for them. So they are very good. The only problem with my guide was that communication was a little difficult, because normally when I take a guide, I chat with them on the local cuisine, for instance, and the plants and the all that. But I could not talk because his Hindi was very poor and his English was even poorer. So I couldn't talk too much, unfortunately. So we just got the basic communication going between ourselves.
Hi, MD. Thank you for sharing all this today. This is Ankit.
Yeah,
Ekta, my wife,
hi,
is
Ankit.
also attending a session. She's curious of how many women travelers do you see? What's the ratio of women travelers?
Plenty. How many? There are more men. I would think maybe 25% women. Of course, this time I saw more women because of students. There were a lot of student groups which had come, and they had girls with them as well. And of course, foreigners, you find groups come. Most of foreign groups come in 10s and 20s, and typically they have at least 3 or 4 women, but plenty of women around.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Let me stop share.
If one has to go next year,
yeah,
how does one get started?
How does one? So the other point is
preparation, not the physical preparation, but connecting there, going there.
There are 3 ways of doing it. So one is you can actually get an agent in India to do this for you. There are companies like India Hikes and few other companies. Advantage is that they, you can pay them in rupees. You can do a, UPI transfer to them, and they'll take care of everything. You don't have to carry cash. That's one advantage. But the disadvantage is that the guide that they send typically don't know much, and they recruit a local guide over there, and they do try to cut corners. This is not my experience, by the way. This is what was told to me by some of the groups I met over there. So that is one option. Second option is find a travel company in Nepal. Kathmandu has several companies, so that's the second option. They would arrange guide and porter and all that for you, and they'll take care of all that. The disadvantage with them is that they do only that, but they take a very healthy kind of margin for the little that they do, because finally the key people are your guide and porter. Those guys are most important, because the guide knows exactly where you can stay. He will have their number. He will make the call to them and say, look, we are going to be landing up there by 4 p.m. Please keep a room for us. Or he'll say, oh, there's no room available there. He will try another place. And even if you land up in a place where you don't have a room, these guys are resourceful enough to go talk to some people and figure out something for you. So the guide is super important. So you need to take the guide. He in fact is the most important person in all this. Everything else you can do yourself. You land in Kathmandu, you can either book a bus, which I don't recommend. If you want to go to Pokhara, I suggest you fly. The only problem is that you hear some incidents on flights between Kathmandu and Pokhara. We had a crash, I think, earlier this year as well. So those things are there. There are lots of airlines there. There is Buddha Air and some other air, and there are lots of these little airlines which are there. So so you can book that yourself. You can travel yourself. Once you find a guide, you're all set. And guide will arrange the porter. That's what happened.
So at Kathmandu, you typically go to some local guide place where you can pick up a guide, if you don't want an agent?
No, you do word of mouth. So you talk to people, and then find out. You'll have people. If you ask, for instance, the hotel where you're staying. By the way, Kathmandu and Pokhara, you can book in advance. You can do it through Booking.com or Make My Trip or whatever. That's possible, but not the other places. So you can go there. You go to Tamil. You walk around. You'll meet a lot of people. So you can find out as to who can help you, or you'll end up, if you're going to Annapurna, there's no point in you finding a guide in Kathmandu. You go to Pokhara, find a guide over there.
So why don't you take a trip next year for all of us?
No, thanks. I don't want to go to the same place again. I'm actually thinking of Manaslu, actually. Manaslu is another part which I showed you in the first map. So I'm thinking of that. Those are slightly higher altitudes as well. So, and within Annapurna, there's another trek which is quite popular called Annapurna Circuit. That's also 10 days. And that goes up actually higher because you have to cross a pass, which is around 5,000 meters. So that's, but you're in the same area, which means you see the same mountain peaks.
So on a scale of 5, EBC, ABC, and Kilimanjaro, where do you put them?
Okay, so Kilimanjaro is right on top in terms of difficulty, and primarily two reasons I say Kilimanjaro is the toughest. One being the fact that it's 6,000 meters or close to 6,000. And second reason is that the summit climb on the last day, when you go from Barafu Point to the top, is a 7-hour climb in 5,000 plus meters. So that's what makes it tough. Kilimanjaro's first. Second would be EBC. I have not gone to EBC, but I've gone to Gokyo-ri, which is actually a better place compared to EBC. EBC again is way too crowded. Gokyo-ri is next. Reason again is just altitude. 5,300 meters, I think. And also there is an early morning climb to the summit. You start at 4 and reach there at 7 or 8. So that is Gokyo-ri. And the third is ABC. You heard from me, ABC. ABC is relatively easy.
Yeah. Okay. I thought EBC was the toughest. It's not. It's most popular.
It's most popular. Kilimanjaro, I would think, is the toughest. Is tougher compared to EBC.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Good. Any other questions, guys?
No, MD, I'm good. I'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.
You're good.
So
Thanks, Andy. Awesome.
Could you share the PPT, please?
Sorry, I will share. I hope I'm still recording this. Yes, I will share. I will. I will share a recording of this.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll put it on YouTube, and then I may have to trim some parts, the earlier parts, but I'll do that and share it. Because a lot of people have contacted me saying they are in the US and 4 p.m. India time doesn't work for them. So I'll send it to them as well.
Including Devaya.
Including Devaya, correct. That's right.
MD, this is
by the way, there are a lot of chats over here. I suppose you've all asked your questions because I haven't looked at it. What's the cost of guide and photo? I think most of these questions have been answered.
Yeah.
So just going through them.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. I know we have taken a little longer than originally planned, but thank you very much for joining. I'll send the recording around.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
You take care.
See you guys. Bye.
Thank you.
All in all, what is the total budget? What is the total budget?
Important.
I'll try to put my head around because I wasn't calculating. Look, my airfare was expensive, by the way. From Bangalore to Kathmandu and back cost me 30,000 because I think I booked at the wrong time. Okay.
That is apart. Ex-Kathmandu.
Ex-Kathmandu, I would think you should keep a lakh or so Indian rupees.
Okay.
Plus or minus.
Okay.
Look, I was fairly generous with people around over there. I was fairly generous. I wasn't counting when I gave, to the porter and people. In fact, I used to tip everybody over there, including the tea houses and so on, which I noticed many other people were not doing, but I was doing it. So a lakh Indian rupees should be good.
Good. Thank you so much. And what a lovely presentation you've done. Lovely.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, my pleasure.
Lovely.
See you guys. Bye. Thank you, Uncle. Thank you, Uncle, for attending.
Thanks, MD.
Bye.
Have a great day.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.